In Karelia, the sun shines with particular force and magic. It immerses the region in Russia's northwest in a magical light and lends energy to the rich nature and its inhabitants. People with special visions, bears, and passionate bear rescuers. Rivers and lakes cover almost half of Karelia, in between Europe's largest primeval forests. Karelia is a land of light, but the sun only provides its power during the summer. And only during the summer do the days seem to last forever. May is bursting out all over. Finally, darkness is on the retreat. One says that Karelia knows but just 2 seasons. 8 long months worth of winter, then 4 months of sunshine. With the first light, the whooper swans return to the Vodlozero National Park. They spent winter in the far west of the continent. Their return sounds like a jazz band tuning up, with plenty of loud trumpeting going on. A few new faces get to know each other, while others renew old partnerships. The majority of whooper swans stay together for many years. They are revered in Karelia as a symbol of the short summer. Elegant harbingers of light that bring with them new life. The young brown bears see their new neighbors for the very first time. They were born in a dark den at the beginning of the year. Now, protected by their mother, they are busy discovering what the forests and moors have to offer. These cranberries from last year, for example. All the fruit was frozen beneath the snow. Now thawed, the berries are the little bears' first solid food. The brown bear is the mascot of Russian Karelia. Around 3,500 of them live here in the primordial wilderness, not only in the protected zones. This is still possible in Karelia. The country is sparsely populated. On an area somewhat larger than the UK, live around as many people as the entire population of Birmingham. But even in this vast bear paradise, tense encounters can still take place. A large bear male enters the clearing. Occasionally, old bears kill younger ones so that their mothers become fertile again and they can become fathers themselves. The experienced female is no fool and retreats. At Lake Onega in Karelia's southeast, the sun is going about finishing off the annual ice age. During the winter, thick ice masses blanket the shores. Once the ice has melted and the sun shines down at a certain angle, one can catch a glimpse of some rock carvings, mystical messages dating back to the Stone Age. Shamans scratched them into the stone 6 millennia ago. Even back then, mankind was able to predict the course of the sun, which was and is vital in a land in which darkness rules for 8 months of the year. There are more than 1,000 pictures on the cliffs. Hundreds of them depict whooper swans. Swans were revered because they could look in so many directions thanks to their long necks. Into the future too, perhaps? A symbol of light ever since the Stone Age, the whooper swan in the summer sun. Karelia is an ancient cultural landscape, even if it is, to this day, only sparsely populated. This small community in Vodlozira National Park is something very special. The people here live according to strict ethical principles that they imposed on themselves. Father Oleg Chervyakov wants more than to simply keep the old Orthodox rites alive. His career, if you will, is quite an unusual one. He began as an astrophysicist. He then founded the Vodlozira National Park, with its 4,000 square kilometers, back in the days of the old Soviet Union. But because he couldn't implement his idea of nature conservation that reconciles both mankind and nature, he resigned in 2001 and has lived according to his philosophy ever since in a small community of kindred spirits.
Even here, in the huge Vodlozira National Park, it wasn't possible to implement my perceptions of sustainability. This is why I decided to at least try to realize my ideas in this tiny settlement. Initially, we want to learn how to live in the traditional manner, in order to show others that this really is doable, and not just an idea.
Father Oleg wants to live here in the national park, but at the same time does not want to destroy anything to do with the countless miracles that Karelia's nature has to offer. Together with the return of the light, the mating season of the Eurasian black grouse begins in the moors. With a bit of karaoke and a dash of Strictly Come Dancing, the splendid black grouse want to impress the hens. Of course they do. The males attempt to hit especially the red roses of their rivals with their beaks. Hanging wings and well-positioned tail feathers cause the most resolute of the ladies to swoon. These are the things that decide which one of the opponents the girls will choose to mate with. As long as, like now, a young white-tailed eagle doesn't come along and ruin all of the mating rituals. Karelia is birch country. The undemanding, winter-hardy tree likes low-nutrient, peaty soil. The white bark reflects the light, a perfect sunscreen during the long summer days. Everywhere, the water appears to be covered in a carpet of shimmering gold. This is all down to the pollen of catkins that spread themselves out across the surfaces of lakes and moors. An icterine warbler chirps in the branches, on which hundreds of insect species have made their homes. Many of them are closely linked with the birch. The female parent bug, for example, lays her eggs on the undersides of leaves. In contrast to many other bugs, she's a good mum and guards her offspring for several weeks. This is where she gets her name from. When she feels threatened, she makes a buzzing noise with her wings and emits a nauseating septic fluid that expels her enemies. After hatching, the bug larvae remain close together. In groups, they find protection from their enemies. When moving home, they deposit a scent trail which each of them follows, one after the other. A kind of larvae polonaise that moves on to the next juicy leaf. That they pierce and then suck away to their heart's content. June. The days are getting longer fast, until the sun sets no more. The time of the white nights begins, peak season for the black-throated divers who can now go fishing without any interruptions. The birds have now been active for 24 hours and sleep very little. The partners keep in contact over great distances with audible calls. Their nests are often located directly at the water's edge. A hooded crow has been very attentive. The nest is in danger. The crow could show the bear the way. So the brooding diver silently creeps off, just to appear somewhere else, making a lot of noise to draw attention away. The trick works. The bear is unaware of the nest, and so it's 1-0 to the diver this time. But it's much too early to give the all clear yet. The parents remain nervous. As now, the nest is empty and the crow doing his rounds. An attack solves the problem. The black-throated divers have mastered a dangerous situation in time-tested teamwork. While the female returns to the nest, her partner whiles away the summer by catching mosquitoes. Not too far away, the growing bear children are busy discovering what the moor has to offer. The siblings feel secure when close to their mother. She protects them and gives them the necessary self-confidence to be able to discover the world around them on their own. But not even the strongest bear mother can do anything if attacked by an overpowering enemy, mankind. Despite strict protective measures, brown bears in vast and hardly controllable Karelia are continuously poached. The illegal hunters are after the adults. Often, the helpless young animals are left to their own devices. When brown bear children lose their mothers, they also quickly lose their bond with nature. This is why Moscow biologist Vladimir Bologov takes care of bear orphans in his own unconventional way.
We're in Karelia, a very beautiful region. Karelia is north of St. Petersburg. Hardly any people at all live here. There are huge areas where wolves, bears and lynx live. I think it's a good place in which to reintroduce animals to the wild, especially as there are so many islands here. They're like a natural enclosure and serve my plans for reintroduction perfectly.
Vladimir Bologov has 8 bear children with him, orphans whose mothers were killed by illegal hunters, and surplus babies who were born in obscure zoos somewhere. The little bears were first taken care of at a rescue center near to St. Petersburg, but there is not enough room there, and they would have been put down. But Bologov traveled 1,000 kilometers with them into Karelia's northwest, not far from the Finnish border. He searches for a safe place for the little ones in the remote wilderness. He wants to give them a chance to survive in the most independent and bear-like way possible. On one of the many islands, they should be able to make it together. At the same time, they would be relatively safe from enemies there. The whooper swans also appreciate the safety of the small islands. They offer protection from nest thieves. 5 weeks later, and the chicks hatch from the eggs and follow the parents into the water. Even after the shortest absence, partners are greeted with substantial trumpeting. The chicks do not yet have the characteristic long neck. This is why the parents have to feed them by fetching water plants for them from the bottom of the lake. This summer, it is unusually hot and sticky in Karelia. A thunderstorm is brewing overhead. Severe weather and storms make their way across the country. Water temperatures are also significantly higher than usual. Oxygen is becoming scarce in the shallow water zones of the lakes. This claims victims. A wolverine is looking for fish that have died in the water and washed ashore. It's one of Karelia's most secret inhabitants, and hardly anything is known about this animal. Many other predators now also find easy prey. A fox patrols the beach too, hoping to find some tasty bits and pieces. The smell shows him the way. A hooded crow has found what he was looking for. The fox, too, was successful, makes his way with his fish to the forest in order to eat his prize undisturbed. The wolverine could not only relieve him of his prey, the big marten is at least double the weight of a fox and much stronger. In the summer, the hyenas of the north often live from carrion. But the strong robbers also eat anything that comes their way, even imprudent foxes. A large bear is also searching the shore for something edible. And once again, crows show the way. When several of them head for ground simultaneously, there must be a nourishing reason. The omnivores in Russia's moors and forests know exactly what they're looking for. Meanwhile, the wolverine has found the carcass of a wild forest reindeer. But an opulent meal like this lures other gourmets as well. Wolverines rarely ever face a confrontation with a bear. If they do, however, their extremely aggressive behavior surprises many a bear. Even though stronger by far, more often than not, the bear leaves the field to the marten. This time, it's 1-0 for the bear. But whether or not the bear orphans will manage, the next few days will show. Vladimir Bologov's method of reintroducing bears to the wild is unusual, but has already proved successful in other regions of the country. The little bears only have a chance of survival in freedom if they don't turn to humans as mother substitutes. The idea is that surrounded by water on this remote island, they will be able to grow up by means of their own resources. Bologov and his companions distribute the food they've brought with them in the forest. This is to help the animals during the initial days. When young bears are older than 6 months and have enough fat reserves, they are able to make it in the wilderness alone. Several essential behavior patterns and abilities are inherent and need not have been taught by the mother. least they can now leave the cramped crates. They are very wary when taking their first steps in the wilderness. With a mixture of curiosity and caution.
As yet, they're unaware of where they are. After all, they've only just left their crates, and it's their first day in the great outdoors. They don't know their mother and were reared with milk. They've never seen the real outdoors. Of course, now they're confused and don't know what they should do. But instinctively, they will know what they have to do. Therefore, it's important to begin to leave them so that they can make it alone. Let's see how they get on.
When the summer sun lets light and shadow scurry across the trees, the primeval forest becomes a nursery. After an 8-month pregnancy, the moose cow has given birth to a calf. Within a few days, it begins to chew for the first time on green food. And in doing so, meets someone unknown. Moose are loners that only meet to mate. The calf quickly returns to its mother. We are still several weeks away from the mating season. The moose are not yet ready for one another, and the bull could be dangerous for the calf. Better if the cow would stand in its way. And so, it remains a short, inconsequential rendezvous in the vast forests of Karelia. All of a sudden, in the middle of summer, it begins to snow. Well, rather the seeds of the willow herb scurrying across the countryside, blanketing the traces of bygone days. Behind the idyll is a tragic story. Once, there were 40 villages in the region of the ensuing Vodlozero National Park. In the days of the Soviets, in the remote region bordering on Finland, the farmers could barely be controlled by the state. For this reason, they were simply relieved of their livelihoods. Father Oleg remembers how it was when the villagers were banished.
In 1953, the inhabitants were ordered to leave the village within 24 hours. Each farm was allotted just one sledge for belongings and for all family members. Children, the elderly and women were placed on top. Household goods had to be left behind, and almost all animals were slaughtered. Today, the abandoned fields present a sad, yet not hopeless aspect.
Она может быть печальная, но не безотрадная.
Nature has returned and takes its place.
Природный ландшафт
The fields have
занимает
given way to forest.
свое место.
The birds make their nests.
Поля зарастают лесами,
Moose and bears have found their way here.
птицы, ходят лоси, медведи. И это скорее
For me, it's like an allegory,
вот такой образ,
like a picture of
образ
sunken
некой
infinity.
исчезнувшей,
It's like the
канувшей,
age-old story of Atlantis.
в историю,
Just like the
вечность
legendary
Атлантиды.
continent,
Вот такой вот
here
легендарный
the civilization
материк,
of the farmers disappeared overnight.
цивилизация озерных людей, водлозеров.
If it was up to Father Oleg, traditional culture should be brought back to life all over Russia and not be subject to eternal decline. Like Karelia's summer sun that never completely disappears. Its light always radiates. Sometimes it immerses the country in a golden shimmer. Sometimes the entire sky appears to be aflame. In the cool of the morning, mist still blankets the moors. When the silvery glowing ball of the sun rises in the sky, the swathes gradually dissolve. For the wolverine, this is one of the best times of the day. The female is hunting fish and frogs. Wolverines live in northern tundras and forests, from Asia to Scandinavia and North America. The bear-like marten is the subject of manifold myths. This one is curiously observed by another of her kind. A small sensation. Filming a wild wolverine swimming is a case of major good fortune. The friendly greeting shows. These animals are very familiar with one another. The young male is about 5 months old, and he has a brother too. The two young never miss an opportunity to play with each other. Their games serve mostly a trial of strength. Although the young have been eating solid food for quite some time now, one of them still fancies some milk from Mother's bar. But she has noticed something. The female tries to sniff out the intruder. Unsuccessfully. The wind direction is unfavorable. The mother is suspicious. Her nose and hearing are very acute, but she can only see clearly for short distances. The elk knows to keep a safe distance from the three predators. When it comes to running, he is more than a match for the wolverines. Finally, tension eases once again. But the female will not tolerate her obtrusive sons for very much longer. In the moor, the first blueberries and cranberries are ripe, a delicacy for hungry brown bears. And once again, hooded crows point in the direction of where the search for tasty morsels could be rewarded. There's no more meat on these moose antlers. But underneath is valuable protein. Insect larvae, better than berries, and even more berries. As midday approaches, it's warm on the moors. Small pests have just reached operating temperature and even managed to drive out the bears. In the summer, Karelia is not just the land of eternal sun, but also that of the huge mosquito swarms. The aggressive bloodsuckers take over power in the moors during the day. The enormous bears are at the mercy of the small insects. Some flee from the insect bites into the water. This gives the mosquitoes less attacking area, and as far as the bears are concerned, has the pleasant side effect of being able to cool down in the midsummer heat. Not all inhabitants of the forests and moors suffer from the plague of insects. Nature is now full of mosquito traps. As resilient as the delicate structures may be, the insect catchers have to regularly spin new webs. They emit fine, silky threads from a gland in their abdomen. They begin by building the basic framework, like spokes in a wheel. Then they pull the sticky threads in a series of spirals from the outside to the inside, and the mosquito trap is ready. The end of summer is near. A male brown bear roams through the forest, marking his territory for miles in doing so. At first sight, it looks like he's got an uncontrollable itch. But in fact, the bear marks his territory by leaving behind hairs and traces of his scent on the bark. Equally typical behavior is to run around smaller trees. This also serves to deposit clear traces of scent. The little bear orphans don't have much more time in which to acclimatize to the island. And winter is not that far off anymore. A few days later, and Vladimir Bologov pays his brown bears another visit. He asks himself whether he has found the right place for the little ones. He's not pleased with what he can see in the distance. the young bears are cowering in the trees and descend as soon as they see the boat. Sometimes little bears climb trees just for the fun of it, but this time they make an insecure impression. The little ones immediately make a beeline for Bologov. The biologist didn't see this coming. To make it worse, 2 of them are missing. As he begins to search for the missing bear cubs, the others follow him like little ducks follow their mother.
Now we can only see 6 small bears. I don't know where the other 2 are. But they found the mash we made for them to eat. They're agitated because they always associate food with people. Maybe they'll begin to eat if we stay here for a while. They were raised with people and trample on their own food because they don't know what they should do with it, how they should eat it. Instead, they beg us for food. That's a bad sign for their future in the wilderness. Very bad.
Even living in the wild, roughly 20% of all young bears die within their first year of life. But the orphans here are too focused on humans to be able to survive on their own. With mixed feelings, Bologov leaves the little bears alone on the island.
I don't know, we should try and protect the bears. One could set up a tent here and another one behind the island. And then someone should stay here the whole time and drive away those animals that probably killed the little bears. That was perhaps a bear or a wolverine. Perhaps we should just bring the bears to a safer island. There's no other way. Otherwise, after a week here, we won't have any more bears.
As well thought out Bologov's plan may be, it could just as easily fail. He has but a few weeks left in which to get the bears used to a life in the wild. The beauty of nature and the warmth of a late summer deceive. All of those living here now have to prepare for the long, hard days and nights of winter. Once again, the days are slowly becoming shorter. The wild bears in the forests are already making provisions for the dark season. A bear family eats as much as possible for winter reserves. These 3 cubs have grown both in weight and size. Thanks to their mother's loving care, they've also survived their first year of life very well. They'll stay with her until next spring, at which time the mother will cast them out in order to give birth to the next litter, here in the vast wilderness of Karelia. And here, in the middle of the unspoiled forest of the Vodlozero National Park, Oleg Chervyakov has built a new little wooden church. In the heart of the Karelian forests and bolstered by his faith, he is attempting to impart the power of nature to young people. People who have turned their backs on the modern world, like him.
We have this significant idea, which is possibly quite mad, but it could be of global importance. If the story is not to end like the deluge, it has to continue. I believe these are no empty thoughts. We assume that it's mankind's calling to be part of nature, as its highest developed link. And this, not only in the biological, but especially in the spiritual and humanistic sense.
And to this end, Father Oleg wants to set the standard, to maintain the unique landscape of Karelia above and beyond the rhythm of the seasons. The summer dwindles away, and with it, the sun also retreats. Punctually, before the long winter begins, the birds of light make their way south, accompanied by the weakening rays of sun. Not long now, and darkness will take over sovereignty of this land of infinite forests, raging rivers, and dreamlike lakes. But before this, the solar wind conjures up mysterious harbingers of the cold season on the firmament, and even now, Karelia still presents itself as a land of light.